Have you ever wondered if beauty truly fades with age? Or if it simply changes into something even more powerful? One ordinary morning turned into a shocking moment of realization for a woman who thought her glow was gone forever. The cafe was quiet, except for the clinking of porcelain cups against saucers. Margaret sat by the window, the morning light spilling across her silver hair. She adjusted her scarf, feeling the weight of eyes from across the room. A group of younger women whispered, their glances darting toward her. She lowered her gaze, focusing on the steam rising from her tea. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the cup, warmth spreading against her skin. The air smelled of roasted coffee beans and faint perfume drifting from a nearby table. One of the women laughed, a sharp, cutting sound that made Margaret's chest tighten. She felt a sudden rush of heat on her face, as if every wrinkle was under inspection. Her mind raced back to her youth, to mirrors that once reflected flawless skin and bright eyes. Now she avoided mirrors whenever possible, fearing the confirmation of age etched upon her. The laughter grew louder, and Margaret's ears rang with unease. She turned slightly, her chair scraping against the wooden floor. The sound startled her, sharp against the hushed cafe murmur. Suddenly, a man from the far side of the room rose to his feet. His gaze was fixed on her, steady and deliberate. He crossed the cafe slowly, his footsteps echoing like a clock ticking down. The whispering women fell silent, their eyes widening as he approached. Margaret's breath caught in her throat, her pulse hammering in her ears. The man stopped directly at her table, his shadow spilling across the white tablecloth. For a moment no one spoke. The air thickened, pressing against her chest. Then he leaned closer, his voice low, almost reverent. "Do you even realize how every eye in this room is drawn to you?" Her fingers tightened around the porcelain cup, tea sloshing dangerously near the rim. The silence of the cafe deepened, every face waiting, every breath suspended. Her heart pounded, confusion mixing with disbelief, and in that charged stillness, she felt something shift, not in them, but in herself. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The cafe felt smaller now, every wall inching closer, pressing in on her. Margaret's heartbeat drummed so loudly she feared others could hear it. The man's words still lingered in the air, hanging heavy, like smoke that refused to clear. She glanced at the women who had been whispering. Their faces carried not mockery now, but something else. A strange mixture of surprise and a quiet recognition. It unsettled her more than their earlier laughter. She had spent years convincing herself that she had faded, that time had erased her presence. Yet here she was, confronted with something she had not expected. Attention. Margaret's hands fumbled with the cup, the warm porcelain slick against her damp palms. Her breath came shallow, uneven, as though the air itself had thickened. The man's gaze never left her, unwavering and intense. Finally, he spoke again, softer this time, almost like a secret meant only for her. "You do not even see it, do you? The way you carry yourself, the way the room bends around you." Her throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to brush away his words as polite exaggeration. But the silence of the cafe testified against her. Every pair of eyes had settled on her, as if waiting for her response. The weight of that attention pressed heavily on her shoulders. Her mind swirled. She remembered moments, brief and fleeting, that she had buried away. The lingering stares in grocery aisles, the way strangers often smiled warmly at her without reason, the compliments from younger relatives who called her graceful, radiant, without her ever believing them. Were these not signs? Had she mistaken them for pity all this time? The thought unsettled her even more than the laughter had. Her breath hitched and she turned her gaze to the window. Outside, the world carried on, oblivious. Children tugged at their mothers' hands. A man jogged past, sweat glistening under the sunlight. But inside this cafe, time had slowed to a crawl. The walls held her captive, the air charged with a strange electricity.
She whispered, almost to herself, "I am old." The man did not flinch. His eyes softened, and a faint smile touched his lips. Yes, he replied, and that is exactly why you draw them in. You are not trying, you are not reaching, you simply are. His words struck her like a hammer against glass. Something deep inside cracked, releasing fragments she had locked away. For so long she had believed beauty belonged to youth, that once the skin loosened, once the hair turned silver, it was gone forever. But now the evidence stared her in the face, undeniable, impossible to silence. The group of women shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One of them leaned toward the others, whispering again, but the tone was different. Margaret could not catch the words, yet she knew they were no longer laughing. Her pulse still raced, but beneath the panic, something else began to stir. A fragile, hesitant flame of realization. She looked back at the man. Her voice wavered. "Why would you say that? Why me?" He tilted his head, considering her as if searching for the right words. Because beauty is not always loud. Sometimes it hides in the way you do not chase it, in the way you sit here, unaware, yet commanding the room without trying. That is rare. Her throat burned, emotions rising faster than she could contain. She wanted to dismiss him, to laugh at the absurdity of it all. But deep within, she knew the truth of his words. The signs had been there all along, scattered through the years. The respectful glances from men her age and younger, the admiration from women who saw more than wrinkles when they looked at her. The unshakable way she carried herself, not with arrogance but with quiet strength. 7 clear signs, though she had been blind to them. She pressed her palms flat against the table, grounding herself. Her tea had cooled, untouched, forgotten. The faint hum of the cafe returned, but different now, as though the atmosphere itself had shifted. Margaret straightened her back, suddenly aware of her posture. The scarf around her neck felt lighter, no longer a shield, but an adornment. She realized she was breathing deeper, calmer. For the first time in years, she did not shrink under the gaze of others. She met their eyes. The group of women across the room looked away instantly, caught in the act of staring. The man beside her smiled knowingly. And Margaret felt the unfamiliar but powerful sensation of control. It startled her, yet thrilled her all the same. Her reflection caught her eye in the darkened glass of the window. Not the harsh mirror of her bathroom at home, but softer, filtered by sunlight and life happening outside. The lines on her face were still there, but they no longer seemed like marks of loss. They were a map, a story, etched deeply and undeniably hers. For the first time, she did not look away. The cafe door swung open and a gust of warm air carried in new customers. They glanced around briefly, then their eyes landed on her before searching for seats. Margaret felt it again, that pull, that quiet magnetism she had denied for so long. And it shook her, not because it was unfamiliar, but because it had always been there, and she had chosen not to see it. Her hands steadied, her heartbeat slowed. She lifted her cup once more, sipping the cool tea with deliberate calm. The porcelain no longer slipped against her skin. The laughter from before was gone, erased by something deeper, something undeniable. Margaret set the cup down gently. Her eyes rose, meeting the man's steady gaze. And though her voice trembled, it carried strength she had forgotten she possessed. "Perhaps," she whispered, "it is time I finally believe it." The cafe seemed to exhale with her. The moment stretched, holding her in its grip. But this time she did not feel trapped. She felt seen. And the realization cut through her like lightning, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Margaret's chest rose and fell with a strange rhythm, as though every breath was carrying something new into her. The silence that had once suffocated her now felt different, charged, almost protective. She let her gaze linger on the faces around the cafe. Some were curious, some were thoughtful, but none looked away. Margaret lifted her cup one final time, letting the cooled tea rest against her lips. It no longer mattered that it had lost its warmth. She had found her own. The man gave a slight nod, as if his task was complete. He returned to his seat without another word, leaving her in the centre of the cafe's quiet reverence. No one laughed now, no one whispered. The air had shifted, and she could feel it pressing gently around her like an embrace. Margaret placed the cup down with steady hands. Her eyes caught her reflection once more in the window's glass. This time she did not search for youth, nor mourn what had passed. She saw herself as she was, silver, lined, luminous. A woman whose beauty had not disappeared but transformed into some